Before the first voice was heard, before the drums spoke to the feet, before the eyes of the world opened, there was only earth and silence. I am Obatala. I walked upon the land when it was still wet clay. I shaped the first forms with my own hands, not from pride but from purpose. You see, to create is not merely to build. It is to carry the weight of what you give life to, and what I created would one day speak, love, suffer, and pray. Today I will tell you how human beings came to be. Not through accident, but through Ashé, not from perfection, but through intention. So breathe deeply, open the ears behind your ears, and listen. For in this story, you may recognize yourself. After the earth was shaped, after the hen had scattered the sacred soil, after the chameleon had walked across the land and declared it firm, Olodumare looked down from Orun and saw that something was still missing. There were rivers and mountains, forests and skies, but nothing to dance beneath them. No hands to offer, no hearts to feel, no eyes to behold creation with wonder. And so Olodumare called upon me, not for my strength, but for my patience, not for my power, but for my care. Go, he said. Take the sacred clay from the earth, shape it with devotion, and breathe into the world a being who can walk in both realms, the visible and the unseen. It was not a task of glory. It was a task of responsibility, for what is formed must one day choose. What is given life must carry its destiny. I accepted the mission with reverence. I fasted. I purified my thoughts. I prepared the space, for I knew that to shape a being of Ashé was to touch the mystery itself. But even the one chosen to mold others can fall into forgetfulness, and so began a moment that would change everything. I had been entrusted with the sacred task to mold the first human beings, and so I prepared. I purified my thoughts. I fasted in silence. I surrounded myself with calm so that my hands would shape not only bodies, but vessels worthy of Ashé. The clay was soft, the air still. I could feel the breath of Olodumare close to me. But even those chosen to carry light are not immune to shadow. There came a moment, a simple moment, when I saw a palm tree heavy with fruit. Its sweet wine called to me, and I, in my curiosity, tasted it. Just one sip, then another. I did not realize how strong it was, how it clouded the mind, how it made the hands careless. Yet I continued with my work. I shaped heads, torsos, arms, legs, but something was different. Some bodies were uneven, some limbs twisted, some forms incomplete. When I looked upon them, I felt nothing but confusion. They were not what I had intended. They were not what I believed Olodumare had asked of me, and when the wine left me, shame entered. I had failed. I had touched the sacred with unclean hands. I had allowed pride and pleasure to enter a place meant for prayer. I returned to Olodumare in silence. I expected punishment, lightning, banishment. But Olodumare is not like men. He did not strike me. He simply said, "Let what is formed remain, for all are part of the whole. From this day forward, let those you shaped be protected by your compassion." And so I made a vow. Never again would I drink. And from that moment on, I became the guardian of those born different, not out of pity, but out of recognition. Because imperfection is not the absence of divinity. Sometimes it is the mark of a deeper purpose. When I stood before Olodumare, I felt the weight of the clay still on my hands, not because it was heavy, but because it carried my mistake. I expected judgment, I expected thunder, but Olodumare offered silence. And in that silence, he looked upon the beings I had shaped, bodies twisted, incomplete, different, and said, Let them live. Let them walk among all others, for they are not less. They are reminders. Reminders that creation is not perfect. Reminders that even the sacred can stumble. Reminders that difference is not absence of purpose, but the expression of another kind of beauty. Olodumare did not erase what I had done. He did not ask me to start over. He asked me to care. And so, I bowed. Not just in shame, but in understanding. From that day, I became a protector, the Orisha who watches over those whose bodies do not fit the mold, whose movements are slow, whose words come with effort, whose eyes see the world differently. They are not broken, they are not cursed. They are sacred vessels of Ashé, because the divine does not always show itself in symmetry. Sometimes it hides in the places we overlook. Sometimes it breathes in the quiet strength of those who suffer without losing their light. That is when I learned compassion is not weakness, it is wisdom. To feel the pain of another, to protect the forgotten, to honor what the world calls flawed. This is divine work. And so, if you have ever felt unseen, if your body or mind carries a shape the world does not understand, know this: you were not made in error. You were made by a hand that learned and a heart that changed. This story I've told you is not just about clay or wine or even the first mistake. It is about what it means to be human. You were not made by chance. You were not formed in error. You are not your flaws, your limits, your wounds. You are a vessel, shaped with intention, filled with Ashé. Some of us are born with bodies that bend differently, some with minds that walk another path, some with silence in place of speech. But none of this makes you less divine. In the eyes of Olodumare, diversity is not deviation, it is design. And in the hands of Obatala, every form is worthy, every life is sacred, every difference is part of the whole. This is why the Yoruba say, Ori lababo, Orisha lan sin. We protect the Ori, our inner head, our destiny, and we serve the Orisha who guide us. Your form is not your destiny, your soul is. And that soul, that spark within you, was touched by the same Ashé that shaped the stars, that turned earth into breath. So walk gently with yourself. Treat your body with reverence. Honor your journey, even if it has been crooked. Because every path, no matter how imperfect, can lead back to the divine. And if you ever feel unworthy, remember this: even I, who shaped the first humans, had to learn, had to fail, had to grow. And in that growth, I found something greater than power. I found compassion. Now you know, you were not made by accident. You are not a random collection of flesh and breath. You were shaped by hands that learned through humility, by a spirit that carries the memory of divine responsibility. I, Obatala, was given the task to form your kind. And though I stumbled, though my hand was not always steady, I never stopped seeing you as sacred. You are more than your reflection. You are more than your struggle. You are a story still unfolding, a vessel of Ashé walking through time, returning slowly to the source. So carry yourself with grace. Honor your form, whatever it may be. And when you see someone who walks differently, who speaks with effort, who lives in silence or shadow, see them as I see them, sacred, complete, whole. Because the divine lives not only in perfection, but in presence. If this message awakened something in you, honor it, like this video. Share it with someone who may need to remember their origin, and subscribe so you may continue walking the sacred path with us. In our next journey, we will explore the mystery of the Ori, the divine head within, your destiny, your compass between heaven and earth. Until then, walk in truth, walk in balance, and remember, your form may be clay, but your essence is light.